Hi guys, it's Pamela from fibersprite.com. Today I wanted to talk to you about steeking. A lot of people think it's something that's really scary because you're cutting your knitting and you might be worried that it's going to unravel. But it's really not scary at all, and knitting actually doesn't want to unravel in the direction that you're cutting it, so that helps you out. I'm going to show you a technique to help you reinforce your knitting, just in case, and then we'll actually do the cut. So this is the piece that we're going to cut, but I just wanted to show, this is a plain stockinette knitted swatch, and the direction of steeking is going to go vertically. So normally when we're worried about knitting unraveling, it's because it's going horizontally the way that you knitted it, back and forth, and that is a concern for some people if you're tearing your knitting or worried about a knitting repair, but that's not what we're talking about today. And just to show you that it's not that scary, we're going to cut this piece that has no reinforcement, and we're going to just look at how it unravels. So I'm cutting straight up the middle, so it's a vertical cut. I'm going to cut the whole thing in half. And so that's our cut. And it's going to unravel a little bit, but the stitches that are unraveling are the stitches that I basically cut in half. And as I pull and tug at that, it's really not coming apart at all, except for that one column of stitches. So I'm having actually to work at it quite a bit to get even those stitches to unravel, and the neighbors next to them don't want to come undone. So that's why steeking works, because you're cutting your knitting vertically, and it's against the nature of knitting to unravel in that direction. So now that you've seen the worst that can happen without any reinforcement, let's take a look at doing it the safe way, which most people, myself included, are going to want to do most of the time. So there are a couple of different ways to do it, to reinforce your knitting. What I'm going to show you today is what's called a crocheted steek. So this column of crochet stitches and this column of crochet stitches are added onto the fabric later on, and they are going to reinforce those stitches where it's cut. So we're going to come back to this one in just a minute, and I wanted to show you a little bit more about the steek. Now, usually when you have a steek, you're going to have at least 5 stitches in the area where you're going to cut. And usually, because steeking is used with color work, it helps to have this column of stitches. So you actually have 5 columns of stitches for those 5 stitches. You've got one color, and then it just alternates colors back and forth. And as I alternated colors in my color work, it's just using that same color that was in that pattern round. So the stitch that's going to get cut is the center stitch. And then the other 2 stitches are what we use for reinforcement. So to make a crocheted steek, you want to be crocheting together the legs of 2 of these stitches. So you're basically joining them together so that they don't come apart. So all you need for that is a little bit of yarn and a crochet hook. And I've already gotten it going just a little bit on here. But what I'll do is I'll hook my crochet needle through that loop, and then I'll go under the leg of each of those stitches. So you're not taking all of both of those stitches, you're taking half of those 2 stitches that are next to each other. And you're going to loop your crochet or your yarn over your crochet hook, and then you're going to pull it through. And that's one reinforcement stitch. You want to do it for every single stitch as you go all the way up. You don't ever want to do more than one stitch in these legs of the stitches, because that will actually stretch it out a little bit and make it wobbly. You don't want that. And if you see above, before I've started this crochet, it's nice and flat the way that you'd expect your knitting to be. But as I crochet, it creates this ridge. And what this ridge does is it's sort of pulling the knitting open. And it's going to open it up, that one stitch that I want to cut, and make it easier for me to see what I'm doing. And it reinforces your stitches. So you get 2 in 1. So what you're going to do is you're going to keep that line of crochet stitches going all the way up. And sometimes I do get caught a little bit if my yarn is splitty, which it's doing right here. But you just keep going all the way up, securing every row of stitches. And then when you get to the end, you're going to turn the work around and go up the other side. So they're going in opposite directions from each other, and that helps them open out like the book. We're going to set this one aside and look at the one that we're going to cut. So I've already done the crochet stitches. On the inside, I've already woven in my ends. And it's ready to cut. So the line that I'm going to be cutting is right down the center. It's the darker column of stitches in this instance. And so I'll take my scissors and I just cut. So now, instead of a circular piece of knitting, I have a nice flat piece of knitting. And those stitches aren't going anywhere because not only because they don't want to, but they've been reinforced so that they really can't go anywhere. Another thing that I like about this method is that normally when you have a steek, you're going to be adding some kind of knitting onto the edge. So typically I'm going to be doing this for sweaters, and this is going to be my neckband, and I'm just going to pick up stitches along here and knit out in this direction. And the way that this technique works is it sort of pulls your stitches so that they lie flatter rather than curling under the way that stockinette stitches want to do sometimes. So it turns that steek over, and I'll knit on those stitches, and then when I'm finished, I'm going to sew some sort of band. You can use ribbon. I like to hand weave ribbon, but you'll sew that between over top of your edging and your steek, so that even if something happens to one of these stitches, it's going to be kept encased, and that's another way to keep them secure. So that's steeking. It's great for sweaters, especially where you're doing color work or you don't want to knit in the round for whatever reason. And it's not scary at all. Your stitches are not going to go anywhere. Even that little one that you see sort of unraveling, I'm tugging at that and it doesn't want to go anywhere. So nothing is going to come apart at the seams. It's all going to stay nice and secure. If you have any questions, be sure to ask them in the comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this method, and I'd love to see some people try it. It's really fun, it's really easy, it really gives you a lot more options in your knitting. Thanks for watching. You can check me out on fibersprite.com, and I'm also on Instagram and Facebook. Thanks!